Good afternoon and welcome to the third session in the NRAI's Insider's Guide to F&B powered by Petpooja. The idea behind this series is to enable and empower restaurants and cloud kitchen operators with the tools and know-how to run better businesses with the help of knowledge sharing and experiences of industry veterans. This is a monthly series, and each month we cover different subjects that are integral to business growth. Our previous sessions were on marketing strategies, including one which was focused on digital marketing. Today's session is about optimizing food cost, which, as we all know, is the single largest cost for any F&B business. It's therefore imperative to understand how best to rationalize this cost without compromising on quality. Based on my personal experience of running fine and casual dining restaurants as well as cloud kitchen brands, one thing I know is that it isn't one size fits all. Different food cost optimization strategies may apply depending on the type of city operation, the location, and also whether you're multi-city, multi-location in the same city, etc. So to elaborate on this further, we have two speakers today. The first is Dheeraj Gupta, who is an Indian business owner and fitness enthusiast. He's the founder and MD of Jumboking Foods, India's largest homegrown brand of vegetarian burgers. He's played a key role in the large scale acceptance of franchising as a framework for doing business in the QSR industry and believes in establishing a strong and symbiotic partnership with a cohort of numerous motivated individual entrepreneurs who want to benefit from the 10x advantages that our well developed franchising system provides. Joining him today is Shaival Desai, Chief of Growth at Petpooja. Shaival has overseen Petpooja's rise from 1,000 to 45,000 outlets today. He leads several teams, including marketing, new product development, and developing partnerships for business expansion. I request you to keep posting your questions in the comments section, and we'll address them after both speakers have presented. Over to you, Shaival.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you for being here. Today we hope that we can get into the nitty-gritties of how to optimize food costs. I'm just sharing my screen. Neha, can you ensure that my screen is being shared? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I hope that all of you can see the screen. So just a brief about Petpooja. Petpooja is India's largest restaurant management platform, powering over 45,000 restaurants across the country. Today, I actually want to take you through an entire holistic process of how food cost optimization and inventory optimization should be implemented in any F&B outlet. It's theoretical and it's a very generalized approach, but I hope that this can give you a brief sense of how to start. Right? It's one of, like Gauri mentioned, it's one of the most integral parts of managing a restaurant. Right? Okay. So first of all, why do we manage inventory, right? So food costs range anywhere from 25 to 45% of an F&B business's costs, right? As we all know lately, the cost of raw materials has risen and also fluctuates a lot, right? We all know what happened to the price of onions 2 years back, right? And when that happens, you really don't know what the actual cost of making something like an onion soup is, right? And it really impacts the cost significantly. The third is delivery penetration has reduced the overall margins for the F&B business, right? The margins have come down significantly, so now every percentage point of margin really matters, right? Good inventory management can save 15 to 20% of food costs, which increases margin by 4 to 9%, right? But that's not all. A good inventory management can help with a lot more, right? We all keep saying it's about optimizing costs, but it's good inventory plays a role in a lot of other avenues as well, right? So the first is menu pricing. Like I said, when the price of onions increase, you really should know what the price of your menu item is, right? It helps you estimate profit margins. The second important part is vendor analysis. An average F&B business deals with 25, 30 or more vendors, right? You might be buying similar items from different vendors. So to do a comprehensive vendor analysis, you actually should know the purchase price from each vendor for each item. That's the only way you're going to be able to get good partnerships and good deals in the longer term. You will know which vendor is actually giving you the best price for the best quality of stuff, right? The third is staff performance, right? So, say you've set that a burger requires X grams of cheese. Do you really know whether your staff is adhering to you or not? Do you really know whether there's a lot of wastage in your restaurant or not, right? And this actually leads to how well your staff is performing in line with the SOPs that you have defined. It's a very important QC parameter, and inventory management can help you track this. The fourth is customer satisfaction. We all hate it when we ask for something in a restaurant and the waiter has to come back and say, sorry sir, it's out of stock, right? Or sorry ma'am, it's out of stock. That should not happen. That significantly deteriorates a customer's experience, right? And sometimes it happens multiple times, right? To ensure that items don't go out of stock, right, and to ensure a high customer satisfaction, inventory management is required, right? The last one is lower aggregator cancellations, right? So when you run out of items, you have higher cancellations on Zomato and Swiggy and other aggregators as well. This impacts your score on the aggregators. It really defines whether you're in fifth place or in 50th place, right? Then inventory management actually plays a large role in lowering the cancellations and helping you stay up the rank and higher visibility on the aggregators, right? Okay. I'll divulge a little bit. Over here, I wanted to talk about how do you implement any software, right? The mistake that we have seen most people make is they want to implement 100% of a software on day one. When this is the method that people use, they generally don't even end up implementing 20%, right? Because on day one you are still exploring the system, the staff is getting used to it. So every technology, and I've implemented over 15 different SaaS tools in Petpooja and other companies, and I can confidently tell you, please start with baby steps, right? You implement any software step by step, provided you are okay with part one, then you move to part two. Don't think about implementing till part five all in one go. It does not work, right? So how would you implement any restaurant management system, right? First, you would do the menu. Then you would do the POS, the actual billing part of it. Your staff would get trained with it, right? All of that. The third would be inventory management, and the fourth would be additional services like CRM and etc. So there are a lot of other ancillary services that are optional that would go last in implementation, right? On the right side, I just want to talk a little bit about how there is an interrelation of menu, inventory, and billing, right? So whenever, and you can start from anywhere, but a live menu is reflected in the billing screen. Whenever you make a bill, say you're making a bill for a pizza, right? Your inventory gets consumed on a live basis. So the cheese gets deducted, the tomato sauce gets deducted, the dough gets deducted, right? And this reflects in inventory. When inventory falls below a certain threshold, the menu item should automatically get switched off, right? So this is kind of a loop that all three of them are interconnected, heavily so I talked about in implementing inventory management systems. Even that should be done step by step, right? I will take you through two implementations for a single outlet, right? And this could be any kind of outlet. The basics remain fairly similar, right? So the basic implementation, first of all, you just enter in terms of the masters, you just enter the raw material masters. Every day you should enter the stock invert, so the stock purchase and the day end stock entry, right? So whatever is left at the end of the day, your staff should go and fill this in. What benefit this gives is this tells you the aggregated cost of goods sold, right? So if I have sold 10 burgers and 20 pizzas and or whatnot, right, it tells me the aggregate cost of everything that I have sold, so that I can come up with an aggregate gross profit margin, right? A slightly more advanced implementation would actually entail the basic implementation plus entering item wise recipes, right? So you have to actually go and define that, hey, my pizza requires say 100 grams of tomato sauce, 150 grams of cheese, and 50 grams of dough, right? So you also should enter wastage, right? Say one tray of tomato sauce got spilled, so that's a loss of 500 grams. You should enter that, right? What this entails, what this gives you is the cost per item sold, right? Per raw material sold, right? And what is the cost of today's pav bhaji, for example, right? Prices keep fluctuating. The cost of the pav bhaji also keeps fluctuating. You actually get to know what is the cost of the last dish that I've sold. It also tells you the variance by raw materials, right? So for example, today from all the pizzas and burgers that I've created, I should have used 5 kilos of cheese, but instead my staff used 6 kilos of cheese, right? So there's a variance of 1 kilo. that means that operational parameters that you have defined are not being followed to the T. This impacts your food cost, especially for QSR outlets. Is extremely important because without those SOPs, I mean, the margins are defined based on the SOPs, right? And they really need to be strictly adhered to come to a profit margin that is acceptable to you. I'm just going to take you through a very advanced implementation, right? This would actually happen once you cross around 10 outlets, right? So I'm just trying to show you a view where there is a central kitchen and there are various types of outlets attached to it. One is a company owned, company operated outlet, one's a franchisee owned, company operated, and the third is a franchisee owned, franchisee operated FOFO outlet, right? So for the company owned, company operated outlet, they would raise a purchase order to the central kitchen. The kitchen would transfer the goods that they've requested to the outlet, right? For between the franchisee operated and the company operated outlet, there could be a difference in the price that they are sold at, right? So for example, the central kitchen could sell buns or could sell potatoes, for example, to the FOFO outlet at a price X, while at a FOCO outlet it could happen at a price Y. Again, there could be an internal transfer between the outlets as well, and the FOFO outlet could be purchasing some things from an external supplier, right? The central kitchen can also initiate a complete delivery plan. Say a truck leaves there at 5 a.m. At each of the 20, 30, 50 outlets, what goods do they have to deliver at each of those outlets? The entire delivery planning can be done on a system. The central kitchen can also be attached to a production ERP system, right? Especially when there's a lot of batch production, or bakeries, as the production happens in batches, right? So the central kitchen can interact with the production ERP. The guys in the factory can actually use the ERP, whereas the central kitchen can use a POS and an inventory management software, right? There could also be more advanced implementations like batch-wise inventory or barcode-based, where you go to SKU level inventory. But those are not very often used. Batch-wise inventory is used in bakeries, but the others are not very often used in restaurants or F&B outlets. Let me put it that way. Going a little deeper into inventory management, there are certain other things that you can also do. There could be multi-stage recipes. So, just in the example of a pizza, your tomato sauce is actually a semi-finished item, right? Because you boil tomatoes, you add certain, you might be adding other veggies to it, you add flavoring, seasonings to it, right? So it's actually somewhere in the middle. It's not a finished item, it's not a raw material, right? So you could actually have multi-stage recipes. This could take place in 10 steps, right? You also have unit conversion. So for an ice cream outlet, for example, you buy by the container. You buy probably a 10 liter or 20 liter tub, and then you sell by the scoop. So you need to be able to convert units, right? You need to know how many scoops are going to come out of this tub. Third thing is yield, right? So for example, if you are purchasing 1 kilo of onions, that 1 kilo of onions is not going to yield you 900 grams of usable cut onions, because you're going to have to chop off the top, chop off the bottom. There's going to be some things that automatically are thrown away, right, as vegetable junk. This happens in a lot of vegetables, and a lot of meat, could happen in dairy, right? So the yield is actually lower than, so when you invert it, the yield actual usable item would be lower than the what you've purchased, right? All of this that I've shown you can be done in Petpooja, and also certain other production management systems as well. But the basics, right? The basics always remain the same. Please make sure, again, implement inventory step by step. I think that will eventually lead to a system where you literally have a complete view of what is going on in your outlet basis inventory. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaival. And I'll pass on to Dheeraj now to share his presentation and experience with us.
Thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Shaival, for that presentation. I think it all sounded very scary. This entire food cost part super complicated, because I think most of us who are in the food business are in the business for the passion. We love making food. We have great recipes, and this food cost comes as a dampener. कि ये सब भी करना पड़ेगा on the side to run the restaurant profitably. Two experiences. One, as a restaurateur, when we start, right? So now that Jumboking is at 100+ stores, I meet a lot of restaurateurs even now, and people say that you probably can do a lot of things today thanks to softwares like Petpooja, which we use, while people are at their first store. So it is going to take time. When they get to multiple stores, at that time they'll put in all the processes in place. And I always tell them that it works the other way around, because you have to get, it's like your menu, your recipe, your food cost. These are the building blocks on which you are going to build your entire food business, your food empire. So you have to get very, very careful that you get these building blocks right. So I had this uncle who who used to run a mithai business, and he said, this is a traditional business, and we cannot do inventory management, and this is for the MBA. You guys, you have done your MBA, and you all know this. It can be done only over there. And I took that up as he was my uncle. I thought I'll help him out. I said, the first thing is, let us do an 80/20 analysis on what you said. So he didn't understand what it meant. I said that no, 80/20 analysis, say August month has gone by. Just put down the name of individual items and the rupee value of sales that happened for that particular item. And you just calculate your total sales, and you do the highest selling products on the top, and then you kind of put in the descending order. This uncle should take pride in that we have 100 things in our menu and everything sells and everything is great. And I said that, but that goes against the conventional logic of the food business. Most of the restaurants that you will see, they are famous for certain things. They have their signature dishes, which are the ones that people really come for. And to his surprise and to my pleasure, what we found was exactly about 20 to 22% of the items which they were selling on their menu were contributing to 80% of their total sale. And this then, I kind of did with, with numerous other friends who are running restaurants, just for the kick of it, that let me see if this hypothesis works at, someone who was running an Italian kitchen, someone who's running a Chinese outfit, someone who's running a South Indian outfit. And it was all coming up to it was the empirical data showed that these are like laws of gravity, and they were working in almost all of the restaurants. So once I think what we realized and what we did in Jumboking was, we said that first let us understand what is it that is really selling, and then focus on that. And that is how we got our menu part really right. Because when we are looking at the international QSRs who have grown, and who have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 stores worldwide, and that is what really excites us. And how do you get that kind of scale? And the answer was in the basics of getting your first restaurant menu right. Now, on the food cost part, Shaival, touched upon that lightly. So we got into buying all our patties from Vista. Vista is one of the largest patty manufacturers in the country. We buy all our sauces from Cremica, again, very large manufacturers of sauces. So when we were doing our purchase, the annual contract for what price we are going to pay, and we had just had a new supply chain manager who has joined us, and he said that I have very little time. I need to do, crunch a lot of data, a lot of numbers very quickly to be able to come up at a reasonably accurate price that we should finalize with the vendor. And inflation was and it has been at an all-time high. Now it is, settling down a little bit, but it was crazy at that time. And I told him, that we just need to relax, because we buy 8 patties from Vista. To make those 8 patties, they have about 40 ingredients which they use. However, of those 8 patties, only 2 actually, account for 80% of the total sales that we do, right? And then within those patties, when we did all the long list of ingredients which are put into the patty, just 2 or 3 ingredients were accounting for 80% of the total purchase that we were doing. And I'm talking of purchase to the tune of almost about 40 crores annually. So it is a large amount of purchase which is happening over there, which is entirely contributed by these 3 or 4 SKUs. And once we got this data or this information, then we said that these are the 4 SKUs which we are going to control and buy really, really well. Because over here, even a 1% or a 2% optimization will impact our overall margins a lot. While the long list of all the other SKUs, even if we end up paying 10% or 20% higher, a very, very good supply chain manager would have been able to buy, the overall impact in our food cost was lesser than 0.01%, 0.001%. So, it was like, let us not sweat over the small stuff. Let us focus on the big picture. And this same thing exactly, it gets repeated in the sauces also, where we did the entire 80-20 analysis, which are the sauces selling, and then what are the key ingredients which are used, for those sauces. So our entire purchase, so whether it be on sales of 100 crores, or as you scale up and you get to sales of 1,000 crores, our purchase is going to lie around these 6 to 8 key ingredients, which we need to control really, really well. I think restaurateurs, especially the new ones, they get a little scared because of there are so many ingredients which have to be bought, and they want to buy them at the best price, and it gives people sleepless nights. If someone comes and tells me that I'm buying onions at X price, and someone else is buying at at a 20% lesser, but maybe onions is not a very, very key part of my recipe, so I don't need to sweat over that. Of course I need to control it at some point of time. However, getting the 80% of the purchase right helps me get a huge head start. Actually, this topic I can go on for a long time. I know that I've been asked to crunch it in 20 minutes. A couple of more things that I would like to share is when we started our store number 1, right? So at that time, the challenges, of course, we had got the recipe part and all of these things fine, and the best of suppliers. Like, I remember it was a funny incident where even when we were on our 5th store, and I had gone to APMC Vashi to buy potatoes, and the guy sitting in line next to us was the guy who was doing purchase for potatoes for Taj. I think we were at about 10 stores at that time. And the potato supplier, he actually called us in first as Jumboking. And I was like, are you sure? He said that, no, sir, your volume of potato that you buy is much higher than what, the Taj Mahal hotel is buying. And, of course, so for them as a customer, we had become, probably larger. So that, extreme focus on the menu was helping us drive a lot of efficiencies with our suppliers. And yes, I think one of the biggest gaps which was there in the Indian market was a strong, robust, software for managing of the recipe of food costs. And I do feel that Petpooja is doing a good job. We are using, their software, and getting the food cost right across multiple locations always becomes a challenge, because you may have standardized the recipe, but as Shaival said, that whether the crew at the store is using that much cheese, that much sauce, that much onions or not, is something which is going to vary by each and every outlet. And I think the smart way to control all of this, because a good store manager will have the food cost control, and a not so good one will not have the food cost in control. So we had to kind of define this as, how do I tell someone that he's not managing the store well, to a store manager? And so again, we did an 80-20 over there. So there is the deviation report of what is being used extra, right? We focused on the core ingredients, and we realized that if we had a very strong stranglehold on the usage of those 3-4 core ingredients, the food cost never varied between a maximum of plus or minus 1%. So I actually sleep very well at night, knowing fully well that even as we go into faraway locations, we get into Delhi, Lucknow, Hyderabad, the food cost is going to be very tightly managed, and we are going to get in our reports on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, whichever we may want to have a look at. I think, Gauri, we open it up to questions. You want me to share more?
Sure. I think I can start with a few questions, and then, if you can expand on that and add to it
Yes.
as you like. So, one of the questions I have is that when you get into multiple outlet scenario, you, the one of the ways to rationalize costs is entering into rate contracts, right, with suppliers. So it's not necessarily something that they might do with you if you have one outlet, but as you start having multiple outlets, that is your buying power increases, and that's something you can do. So how do you manage that when, like, Shaival gave the example of the onions, right, which fluctuated so much. So one of the reasons, suppliers maybe don't want to do this is because when major fluctuations like this happen, they also lose out. And, they don't want you to, I mean, they don't want to lose out, but at the same time, you know, a lot of these contracts have stipulations that if they don't supply you and you manage to get it somewhere else, then they have to pay the difference, things like that. How do you sort of really manage rate contracts optimally?
So that it's a wonderful question, Gauri, because I think the rate contract, the paper on which it is written, it is actually worth lesser than that, because when things go south and prices have gone high, even the best of vendors are not able to hold on to their prices. And what we have realized over the years, it is all about relationship management, which means what? You have to consider that your vendor is also a part of your ecosystem, right? You cannot be taking money out of his pocket and filling your pocket because you are holding a rate contract. It will not work in the long term. So only when you're very mindful that if onion prices have gone up, it applies to the entire market, right? You're not operating in isolation. So if you're able to do justice and give him that price increase, I remember one of our suppliers, he understood the thing very well, and he said that I'm taking a hit of 10 rupees a kilo for this entire month, and our volumes were huge. He said, I'm fine, I'm okay to do that, provided you promise me that after 2 3 months, when the prices come down, you're going to make this good. So we actually maintained a monthly account of how much extra he had incurred in terms of cost, and we kind of repaid that to him when the times became better. And all of this cycle actually, from start to finish, was 6 months, right? And that is how we build such strong relationships, where now it has become, as in these are all unsaid rules. The contract may say what it says, but we know that we have to take care of each other, which is when I say we, I'm talking of each and every supplier that you're working with. And that is how you build long-term businesses.
Right. One more question, especially because you mentioned about going into different cities. So actually it's a two-pronged question. So, you talked about with menu engineering, the 80/20 approach. Obviously across India, people's tastes vary. So, does that 80/20 also vary for you across, do you see a variation across the country? And the second question is that, things might cost different rates in different parts of the country, right? So, again, how do you deal with pricing and, well, firstly, food cost and therefore pricing for the same product in different locations?
Okay, wonderful. So I'll take the first one. Is do the tastes vary? And in different parts of the country, I think this is one of the biggest myths that is there in the food business, and I'm here to bust it. Our experience says exactly the same. Two burgers which sell extremely well for us in Mumbai sell in Delhi as well as in Hyderabad. Completely different markets, right? And so it has got more to do with getting very clear about the kind of locations that you put up, the kind of target audience. So what varies is an 18 to 21-year-old aspires for pretty much the same things in all parts of the country, right? While a 30 to 35-year-old aspires for different things. A 45 to 50-year-old aspires for different things. So that keeps on changing, but that happens within Mumbai also. So I think if you're able to understand the food business as a science, na bahut maza aata hai. It becomes so interesting because we look at these as live, literal experiments that we do in the market, and they are so powerful. They are all giving the same. It's like if I throw a stone from the first floor in Hyderabad, it is going to go down. The same thing will happen in Delhi. Same thing happens in Hyderabad. So whoever says that in India, the taste and the cuisine, as in, it varies every 100 kilometers, I beg to differ. We are in a lot of the, in many parts. And, this is something which we can keep on debating to eternity. So I think getting clear about who the customer is, and so that's why an iPhone appeals as much to an American, to a European, to an Indian, to a Chinese guy. They have got that DNA right. And before say Domino's came into India, how many of us were eating pizzas? Right? They came in with the same system. Or how many of us were ordering home delivery? They would have seen that, oh, there's no market for this. But the same principles applied in the US, Europe, China, Australia, India. It is all giving the same results, and so will it be for our food also. So we kind of give excuses, bog ourselves down by putting these thoughts in our mind that the tastes are changing at every 10 kilometers. Someone says 100 kilometers. And the second question was about the pricing in different cities. So I think all the potato, onions, at the end of the day, they are all either grown in Punjab, or they are grown in Gujarat, or they are grown in MP. So as the market get more and more organized, you're seeing that the differential in the pricing is not actually that high. So what actually the only difference is the supply chain cost, because if I have to buy, say, the patty from this, the logistics cost, the patty if I buy from our plant in Philord, Chandigarh, and I have to bring it to Bombay, right, across 100 stores, across 70-80 tons, there is a certain economies of scale that we have. However, when I have to transfer that same material for a single store in Hyderabad, my supply chain cost is huge. It is almost 10 times the supply chain cost in Mumbai. But that is how it is going to be. If I want to expand into that city, initially I will have to pay that higher cost. And as we build out that city, what happens is the cost will only keep on coming down. So once you understand that, then you're mentally prepared for the game.
So what you're saying is that essentially you would still aim to keep your pricing uniform across the country.
Yes.
And deal with the fluctuation of food costs, but hopefully get to a point where then you can align even the food cost across the country, ideally.
So because we're buying from a centralized factory, our the ingredient cost, the manufacturing cost, the packaging cost is exactly the same. The only difference is the supply chain cost. And the supply chain cost alone is a differential of a max of about 3 to 4% in the worst case. So I know that a particular store which may be far away is going to work at a 3 to 4% higher food cost.
Okay. I think yours is a slightly different, unique situation where you're buying a product which is made in a factory as opposed to raw ingredients. Because I think one of the questions here is that how to control food cost in a fluctuating market rate. I mean, that's, I'm guessing, from within the same market fluctuating rates, which you addressed briefly, saying that you sometimes it's a win for you, sometimes it's a win for the supplier, but over a period of time is how you sort of look to rationalize rather than a week to week. Is that a fair understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to look at it in the long term. And I think with the advent of things like DMart, right, things they are making the supply chain so much flatter, right? You have the same access, you have access to the same quality at similar prices, because the modern QSR, the entire retail business is developing. They are actually flattening the curve for all of us, and which is only going to keep on increasing. So I think we are going to be absolutely fine whichever part of the country you're going to operate in, because DMart will take care of ensuring that the differential in the supply chain cost is minimized.
Okay. This is a slight digression from the food cost per se, but I'm guessing, Dheeraj, this is a question for you. When you go into a new city, what approach do you prefer? Single outlet first or multiple outlets at the same time to distribute marketing spend?
What we do is we just focused it on the same type of customer, whether in Mumbai or Delhi or Hyderabad. And that is what really worked for us. Gauri, what is really important is that we as restaurateurs, we need to get rid of these myths that the tastes are changing every 100 kilometers. Right? If you're able to get rid of that thought, then only then will you be able to move with the next premise that, okay, so there is this cohort of customers who buys my product in Mumbai. I have to look for a similar cohort of customers in Delhi and in Hyderabad. And then their buying pattern, their buying behaviors are wonderfully similar. And of course, the outlets, so because we franchise, we have to go one outlet at a time. And so, but if again, it's the unit economics, one store doing well, right? That is what helps us put up the second and the third and the fourth store. And you actually don't need that much marketing money. if you have got the customer need part. We are actually very sharply focused on what consumer need is being fulfilled. We say that it is the on the go snack, right?
Mhm.
So wherever people are in a hurry, they have a shortage of time. That is where Jumboking works wonderfully. While if you are in a mall and you have half an hour or 1 hour to kill, you want to hang out with friends, we are not a great option.
Yeah, for sure. There's a question from Divyang Khanna. As mentioned by Mr. Shaival, food cost should be 25 to 45%. Wow, 45% is on the higher side for sure for any business. Um, what are all factors or heads do you consider in this number?
So we considered all the cost, right? So every ingredient, some ingredients are really pricey, right? You might as well use a little bit of it, but I mean, it really also depends on the format. So, for example, a fine dine restaurant, right, would have a higher percentage of the ingredients as a total cost, right? Whereas for say a cloud kitchen, it could be lower, right? So it really depends, and these are the ranges that we have seen across all the 45,000 outlets. So no particular number to this, but just that what we've observed.
Yeah, so the answer is basically that it still is only considering food ingredients. It's just that
Correct.
the percentage varies depending on the format of the business,
Significantly,
whether
yes,
it's
it did
fine
very
dining, casual dining,
significantly.
or
Exactly. And even
yeah.
within each format, I'd say that it really again depends on the kind of food that you're serving, right? Certain cuisines themselves have certain ingredients that are much higher price. So for that particular cuisine, a food truck serving an X cuisine versus a Y cuisine could also have a large difference depending on the cuisine being served.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add is, food cost is always a percentage of your selling price, right? So it's also a factor of whether which sort of price point you
Exactly.
want to be at, and yeah. There's a question from Madhu Bora. Dear sir, how to control food cost in fluctuating market rates? I think we addressed this, Dheeraj, earlier. So we'll move on to the next one. There's a question about, is it necessary for us to print nutritional information on restaurant menus? Again, this is not strictly about food cost. And Mr. Anurag Kachiyar has kindly answered that for us in the chat itself, which is that FSSAI is currently mandating it only for companies with 10 or more outlets and companies having a national FSSAI license and having a turnover exceeding 20 crores. So I hope that clarifies it for you. What is the food cost percentage you target for a QSR product like Jumboking in various cities? What is the sweet spot? This is for you, Dheeraj.
Yeah, so I think we would be very happy to. We are currently operating at about 40% food cost, and uh, because the inflation has been so high, but ideally we would like to operate at about 35%. It's all a function of the pricing that your brand can demand when from customers. Yeah, but about 35
Um,
40% is very good.
Great. Question for Shaival from Akshay. Is there a way of scanning invoice of a vendor to upload all items on that invoice on Petpooja inventory management?
Yes, so very interestingly, we've been working on this problem for the last 2 years. We have just hit over 99% accuracy on this. We'll be launching this product very soon. This will actually take the operational aspects out of at least daily inwards, right? Which is the largest problem that we've seen, right? So we work with a lot of brands, and there was this one brand that we were working with. We implemented the entire system, and every Monday we used to get a call saying your inventory is your system is wrong, the inventory is showing negative, right? And every time for 5 weeks straight we went back, and what we saw was they had not done the stock invert. Every Friday they used to get stock and they had not done the invert, right? So we understand there's a large operational problem, and we should be launching this in the next 2 to 3 months, where you just take a photo of an invoice, everything gets uploaded. Not only that, you will also get price analytics, and this will be forwarded to your accounting system as well. So we are coming up with a full-fledged solution for that.
Okay. Again, I guess a Petpooja question. Does Petpooja keep the restaurant's data encrypted, or can you please share some privacy points?
Yeah, so all the data has military grade 256-bit AES encryption. Even our team cannot access it, right? Otherwise, brands such as Jumboking wouldn't be using our software. The proof is in the pudding.
Fair point. So, Shaival, this is a question for you actually. When you have a sort of hub and spoke model, so a central kitchen with multiple outlets. And I know you made that presentation, the drawing, but essentially, are there like where certain things are being like you have semi-finished goods coming in from a central kitchen, you have a
Mhm.
central store which has dry goods as well as uh, perishables coming directly to an outlet.
Correct.
Um, there can be scope for confusion. Like it's not always as simple as everything comes from a central kitchen to
Correct.
to an outlet kitchen. It can be where it's a combination of three different stores in a way. Um,
Correct.
so what is the best way to, or how does the software kind of provide for that situation?
So while I would love to say that all of this happens automagically, right? It just does not, right? Yes, the software can be configured to account for all of this, right? You can have categories of various products. You can set expiry. You can also actually say whether this is from an X outlet. So whether X outlet has sent you Y goods or the central kitchen or a factory or an external supplier, you can tag all of this, right? And the software accounts for all of that. You can get all the associated reports, right? But see, having said all of this, someone is going to have to select in the menu that this came from an X supplier, right? Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, from what I've said, at least the supplier and the purchases should get automated, right? But and the central kitchen outwards are already automated, where you can raise a purchase order to the central kitchen and they send goods back, so it's already tagged as coming from the central kitchen. But after everything, there is going to be certain amount of operational tasks which you're going to have to do, which is why I clearly said that please only bite what you can chew, implement it step by step, and that's the way to go forward with any software.
Okay. And sorry, just an additional thing to that. So can the system also send requisitions directly or purchase orders to the suppliers?
Yes. So, what if you set minimum levels? We can do that. Minimum and par levels, you can automatically trigger requisition list to the
But no,
suppliers.
not automatically, but even manually,
Yeah,
like order directly from the.
yeah, you
Um,
can send requisition list, raise purchase order to a supplier also, and the items also according to supplier get auto filled. So if you're regularly buying cheese and paneer from one supplier, it'll automatic as soon as you select the supplier, it'll automatically come down. So we've tried to reduce the operational task as much as possible, but at the end of the day, there is a manual process to it as well.
There is another logic to this whole thing, because what Shaival has been saying again and again, that step by step implementation. What happens is, we as restaurateurs, we want to keep on asking so many things out of the software while we actually don't use it. It's like, if I have to go from here to Pune, I can just drive down to Pune. I don't need to build an airport in Mumbai and one airport in Pune and do all of that stuff, because I'm going to take the same amount of time, and it's going to be way cheaper if I just drive down. And yes, when the time will come to go to Delhi, we will put up the airports and do all of that. So what I'm trying to say is, just get your store operations, your store profitable. Focus on that. The technology has to be an enabler, right? Which means if your business is doing well, your technology is going to help you reduce cost. We look at technology that way, right? We don't want a lot of fancy things and 10 things that the system can do. Because I remember when we were talking to Petpooja, we say that, was of all the reports that you all have, the franchisee sees only three, the zonal head sees a different three, the team sitting in the head office seeing three reports. All of them are just seeing three different reports, which are a build up of the basic report, and everything else is just noise. So we need to actually get the noise out to be able to make the system powerful.
Absolutely.
There's a question from Pranav Mehra. Food cost of 35 to 40% is good. What are your thoughts when Zomato and Swiggy comes into the equation? And is the 35 to 40% including packaging?
With Swiggy Zomato, we were very clear from day one. We said that, if even when they were charging only 7%, we said, if we sell something for $100, you want 7%, we are going to add that 7% and sell it at 107. Today, when they're charging 28%, we say we sell our food at 8. You add your margin of 28% to that. That is what the customer is going to get for that product, right? So it becomes a win-win situation, right? Where the customer gets the convenience of ordering from home, And I think most of the people, the mistake that they made was they thought that the online business is going to be a very small part of their whole business. So they said, let us take the hit and pay out of their own margins, right? So they did not mark up. And now what has happened is suddenly 50% of their business is coming from online. And so they are in that situation where it is becoming unbearable, the cost that these online aggregators charge. And then we end up, not liking them. And because you're stuck, because you're scared to also increase the prices and pass it on to the customer, because you feel, what if they all go away? What if it becomes too expensive for them? So for me, as in, I would just tell whoever that take the risk, add the cost and pass it on. Nothing will happen. Even if you lose
Well,
20, 30%.
there are all sorts of other issues with price parity on that, which we won't get into right now. But that is a big factor as well in not possibly being able to do that.
But the price parity is maintained. Na? For they need parity across all the aggregator platforms, not with the offline and online price. Which means I can't charge more on Zomato and less on Swiggy. That is what their ask is.
Fair. And does that include packaging when you factor in your 35 to 40% cost that you mentioned?
Yeah, so this question was asked by someone else also. For us, that 40% includes all the cost ex kitchen. So the cook which is there in the kitchen, the store manager over there, his salary, the electricity that is used for running of the grinders and the mixers and all of that, we put all of that in the food cost.
Ah, okay.
Right, and then my front end of the operations, so that is where then so we mark up our front end. So if it's like, because we have a centralized kitchen, earlier it was not a centralized kitchen, right? We used to make it ourselves, but the kitchen was made into a separate entity. So it was, say, company A would sell material to company B, where company A had to put in all of the costs, including the running cost and a certain profit, and provide the material to company B. And as the volumes grew, we were able to
I think
outsource it
here
to the.
it's a different situation, I think, which Pranav is referring to, which is where you are doing your preparation yourself rather than buying a finished raw material
Yeah. In the same thing, you can do that. You
semi-finished
can
raw
make
material.
your preparation kitchen as company A notionally. You don't actually create a
Yeah.
company A, and allocate all the expenses towards salaries and electricity over there, and that should become a part of your food cost. Otherwise, your operating cost is going to be extremely high.
Yeah. And I think
Then
to answer Pranav's
doing that
question,
in your food
the
cost,
packaging that he's talking about is the finished packaging when you send it to a customer. So from what you're saying, it doesn't include that. That's not
no, we add
included.
it. We add the packaging cost.
Yeah.
India is becoming a rich
Uh,
country. Yeah, people are happy to pay. Just go ahead and charge.
Wiser words have not been spoken. Question from Madhu for Shaival. When will the new software from Petpooja be available?
So it's called Kharcha, and we'll be launching it in the next 2 to 2.5 months. So we're done with the R&D. We're just operationalizing and making a product out of the R&D. So next 2 to 2.5 months, you should see Kharcha.
Okay. Again, question about packaging and gas. I think we've covered that. What measures do we take for food cost control? I mean, so if you're asking me specifically, like I said, it varies, in when you're in fine dining versus a QSR or a cloud kitchen model. So I'll be completely honest. I mean, we have in the fine dining space, we have one restaurant, and we have never sort of put a food cost pressure on our chefs because the paramount importance is quality. And we do recognize that for a lot of the sort of premium ingredients that we use, there is a lot of fluctuation in price, especially if they're imported and it's affected by dollar fluctuations, etc. So that is an unfortunate reality of the sort of fine dining space. And the important thing is to monitor it and to be aware of it. You may choose to uh, change your menu pricing because of it, or you may not choose not to. But the important thing is to have a pulse on what the food cost is on a month-to-month basis. So that's what I would say is where fine dining is very different from the QSR or cloud kitchen format. Uh, do we have a facility in Petpooja in which details of vendors are there from where we can contact them? I think you answered this already, Shaival, right, earlier. So that is there, and you can place orders directly through.
So there's a suppliers hub where we have over 10,000 different suppliers dealing with everything. They also offer exclusive deals on the platform since they get to showcase their products to 45,000 restaurants. So that's also there. Plus, we've also introduced sampling in selective cities. So you just click a button and say you want to try pizza packaging, right? Click a button, five different pizza packages from five different vendors will be there at your place. You can choose and then negotiate with the supplier. So we are acting as a discovery platform also now.
Can Mr. Gupta talk more on his experiences of food cost control? I think he's covered a lot of this. So the key thing. I mean, is there anything you want to add, Dheeraj?
I will add one very important thing which I picked up from a friend of mine who runs an international QSR chain. And so we used to worry a lot about inflation, and that prices constantly keep on increasing, and we are very nervous at every negotiation, and kind of literally falling at the vendor's feet, ke boss maan jao, and let us close on this next time, dekhenge kind of an approach. And it was so unnecessary. So we just said that inflation is there, it is going to remain, and let us make it a friend. If we are able to just decide that there will be a 5 to 7% inflation every year, just it's a fact. And then what we said is that we are going to take a price increase every year, right? It cannot be avoided. Like when we started Jumboking, I remember we used to sell the basic vada pav for $5, 5 rupees, and make a lot of money selling it at 5 rupees. And today at 29 rupees, we don't have those kind of margins that we were making at that time. So, but the market has also come up. So I think two rules of thumb. One, inflation is a friend, so make it a friend, and take a price increase of 5% every six months. Don't worry about it, and then you will see that inflation will not give you that much stress. We are using it. I'm speaking from personal experience. We plan for it. Okay, that this time we are going to increase the price on these three things, and 6 months later we are going to price. So we have that caterpillar kind of approach where we increase prices on some things in first 6 months, and the price of some other things in the next 6 months, so everything does not get start to pinch the customers, and they don't even realize it.
I think one key takeaway from this, for me at least, Dheeraj, is that don't be afraid to increase prices, which is very reassuring, and especially in a QSR format, which you always think of as very price sensitive. That's definitely great to hear from you on that. And I just to add to your point about sort of staggering the price increase. I mean, one thing that I will say has been the case in our experience is that don't sort of think about necessarily having a fixed sort of cost percentage to your food cost. So especially again going back to the fine dining experience, there may be items on your menu where your food cost for that specific menu item is much higher than your average food cost. Because it always sort of rationalizes with other items where the food cost is lower, and that flexibility should be built into your menu pricing, because the idea is to also get people to order it and not make it so prohibitive if certain things have very premium ingredients which cost more. So build in that flexibility to your pricing to ensure that your menu is being ordered sort of equally across the board, but also have your sort of eye on the macro food cost overall, and look at it overall as well as on a menu item by item level.
Food pricing,
There's a
right?
question. Yeah.
One something just occurred to me. We were analyzing that we said that when it comes to pricing, right, if you are smart about it, right, we went out and we said, okay, let us learn from, say, someone like a Mercedes Benz, right? Their entry level car is at 50 lakhs, right? Then they have something at 1 crore, and then they have so it's double the entry level car, and then they have something at 2 crores. So what happens is that they know that the 2 crore car is hardly going to sell, but that is what creates the entire aspiration value. And the 50 lakh car becomes what people buy because they want to own a particular brand. And we actually did that in our product. We said, let us have an entry level, product at 25. It was 25 bucks at that time. Then some products at 50 and some at 100. 100 were the aspiration products. That was Jumboking charger 100 bucks. People like, what are you giving in this? So we said that no, this is it is the filled with cheese or whatever. And people would want to eat that when they are like, oh boss, today I want to really celebrate something. But it created aspirational value, and we had that 100 rupee product because it made the 50 rupee price point very easy to digest, right? Because there was a 100 rupee price point. So people said, "Arey, 50, not bad. Come on, let me eat this." So psychology plays such an important role when it comes to pricing.
That's
I'm
a
letting
great
out too much.
point. Sorry?
I said I'm sharing a lot of secrets. I hope the entire food industry benefits. Me.
This is
Who would have
gold
thought?
advice.
Yeah.
Okay, can this software generate the variance between actual food cost and potential recipe-based cost, Shaival?
Yeah, it can. So that is actually the variance report, right? Which says that how much should be left and how much is actually left, and the difference between the two. So yes, it can.
Just wanted to double check again with QSR and cloud kitchens. Do you consider Zomato and Swiggy commissions while calculating food cost? I would say the answer is no. It's independent
I
of
don't.
food cost. Um, Even in a location like Bangalore, no major suppliers are available on Petpooja, Shaival.
Sorry, even in a location like you dropped off.
Like Bangalore, no major suppliers are available on Petpooja.
I will have to check it. I'll take that feedback and I will get that rectified.
Do you do your own delivery outside Zomato Swiggy, and are the cogs on self delivery better than Zomato Swiggy, Dheeraj? I mean, I'm guessing cogs
Cost of goods sold.
are not factored into your delivery part, but go
Yeah.
on, please answer. Yeah.
So we have tried our own delivery, and we have seen that actually Zomato Swiggy works better, because the amount of money and investment that we need to make our own platform, as in for people to know that it is available as an option, we ended up spending more money and did not get enough traction. So we just said that instead, let us focus on getting dominance on the digital apps when it comes to our category. We are better off spending our time and energy trying to do that. It's like a newspaper, that you have the Times of India at one point, where if you wanted to sell your product, you had to advertise in Bombay Times, right? You have to treat Zomato Swiggy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I think, even we're of the opinion that let them do what they're good at and you focus on doing, what you're good at. And that's, that's sort of one approach. Um, in a food cost and menu item pricing exercise, how important is staying true to your target food cost percentage versus trying to match potential competitor pricing?
See, there is a reality outside, right? So there is a certain price that we can charge because there is going to be competition around. And like in our case, right, we are a takeaway business, so we are able to operate at much lesser operating cost, and therefore a slightly higher food cost. Also, our stores, our franchises end up making way more money than if we had put up a 1,000-2,000 square feet store with the air conditioning and all of those kind of fancy things. So people, they know that when I want to sit and eat aram se, then I'm going to pay a certain price. If I want to take something on the go, it's like, I love this example, the story of Domino's and Pizza Hut, right? They're both selling pizzas, similar price points, right? But even my 10-year-old kid, when he was 10, now he's much older. So when we were ordering pizza at home, he would say Domino's se mangwana hai. But when we went into a mall and there was a Domino's there and there was a Pizza Hut there, he said, Aaj Pizza Hut jayenge. So I said, why you always call for Domino's? And he said that, no, today we've come to a mall. So we are going to sit and eat. I don't want to sit in the food court. I want that dine-in experience with a Pizza Hut. Because then, a 10-year-old's mind had decided that at home, Domino's, inside the mall, Pizza Hut. So get that segmentation clear. The customer, who is your customer?
Yeah.
And understanding on that is very important.
Great. Listen, thank you so much, both Shaival and Dheeraj. This has been hugely insightful, and particularly your pearls, Dheeraj, on pricing strategy, and that was particularly interesting to listen to. And we all, Anurag's also mentioned, and I agree that we all loved the Mercedes analogy, and I think we're all going to go back to the drawing board for sure after this session. And Shaival, thanks again for sharing potential for what we could all be doing with food cost data. So I hope you all found that interesting, and also thank you to everyone who tuned in and asked questions. There will be the session will be available on NRAI's website, which is www.nrai.org. Um, and so you can refer back to this or share the presentation with anyone from your team in the future. So thank you again for tuning in, and do stay tuned into NRAI's Instagram page for details about the next session next month. Thank you.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.